Hi, I'm Glenn Whipp with the Los Angeles Times. HBO comedy Veep finishing its 4th season this Sunday, season finale. Joining us from the show, Anna Chlumsky.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
You know, there's a moment in this season of Veep, and, you know, you do a little web search. A lot of people are calling it the greatest scene in the history of Veep.
Oh, geez.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right?
That's so kind of them. I
single one out.
Well, that you can't, right? I wouldn't dare.
But
I did dare when the bathroom scene with Tony and Julia. I felt like that was one of the best scenes ever shot on television.
Yeah.
And so that people are putting the scene where Amy goes. I can't say bat shrimp. I'll say. I can't curse on this, can I? No.
You can, but it is happening.
But it won't be fruitful.
Yeah.
But yeah, when she goes a little off the bend, to put that in the same company as what I would consider the good scenes, I'm flattered.
And that was something that the writers had kind of told you before the season started.
Yes, I was aware in the beginning of the season that there would be some kind of a standoff. And so I'm grateful to have known that, because, you know, something like that, you have to earn every moment as an actor, but knowing that there will be such a climax, you know, it was really my job to make sure that I was scaling that mountain the whole time.
Right.
For every episode before that. So yeah, I was really grateful to know that something was coming. But I hadn't read the actual scene until probably, I would say, like 2-3 weeks before we did it. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should set this up a little bit. So, I mean, like the season begins, Selena's president. I mean, everything should be great.
Yeah, everyone got what they wanted.
Yeah.
and then, Amy's campaign manager,
right?
Like all bully for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, as is always the case with Veep, nothing ever really works out the way people would like it to.
Yeah, it's never quite what they expected, and yeah, I think that in Amy's case, it was just a sense of, on paper and in theory, she probably knew, yeah, I won't be able to be around as much, and I have to wear a pass, and I legally cannot combine my campaign managerial tasks with any governing. Mm-hmm. So she knows that, she knew that all along, but I think actually living it after being so close to Selena and having such easy access to government and what they did, I think that it was a harder pill for her to swallow. Yeah.
Well, you say legally. It doesn't seem like that legality of anything.
The line sure is blurred a lot. Yeah, in this in the Selena Meyer administration. I know. I think it always comes down to the timing of things, doesn't it? It's like her decisions happen so quickly and so frantically that they don't have the time to set up the appropriate boundaries. So yeah, that's my way of excusing some of their questionable legalities.
And for Amy, like the last straw, I think finally is the introduction of one of the great characters from this season.
Yeah.
Karen.
Oh my God, Karen.
Lennon.
God love her.
Parham.
Yes, she's
such a good.
Could we have found a more perfect match in an actress? She served that character so well, because the tragedy of Karen, I think, is that she is terribly bright and terribly intelligent. Really? I do think so. I do, because I think that she's had to get there. Where she's been in her life. She's a successful woman, but I think that that her canniness has been never making a decision and always letting somebody else take the heat. And so
declarative sentences.
Yeah,
she's learned how to completely avoid them in ways that are just so funny. The writers came up with so many great ways for her. Right. I mean, because she's constantly being barraged with questions.
Yes, and she manages to evade them in every way possible, ways that we would never, I think, imagine ourselves. So yeah, it was a really deft, I think, undertaking to create that character, and it was done so beautifully and so frustratingly.
Yeah. And you talked about the buildup. So for Amy, like her inserting Karen. So I mean, you start to see whenever there's a shot of Amy, it's in camera. The look on your face is like just the seething,
just ulcer after ulcer. Yeah.
You're having to swallow like what you really want to say.
Yeah, all the time. And I think, that wasn't abnormal in Selena and Amy's relationship over the many years they've been together. I think that that's something that she was very accustomed to, but even in Amy's head, there was always a payoff somewhere. And I think that at this point, it had been so long for her to not feel any fruit from that kind of dynamic that it just, the shrimp, we'll say, hit the fan. I feel very corny now, but I am.
I like this shrimp thing.
I'm like, I have a kid.
You have a 2-year-old.
Exactly. You have to come up with a lot of.
Shrimp is the.
Yeah, you have to come up with a lot of what?
Euphemisms.
Yeah, is it euphemism? I was trying to think of not homonym.
Happy words.
Whatever sounds similar, but not the same. Anyway,
right.
Yeah.
And the speech that so finally at the end of I don't think we're this episode's aired
like catch up
weeks ago.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah.
So she finally at the end, I think it's the 4th episode, just loses it.
5th episode.
5th episode.
Yeah.
Okay. And has this great speech. You're the worst thing that to happen to this country since what was it?
Since buckets of food or food and buckets and perhaps slavery.
Maybe slavery.
Yeah. I think and it's I the more I hear that speech, because I get to hear it a lot now because people will show clips of it. And the more I hear it, the more I appreciate just the lack of rationality. Because it's it's one of those things where she doesn't know what she's saying. Like it's a little bit like word vomit, and she can't stop herself. She's on this train that she began, and in order to save any of her own personal face, she has to just continue until it's said, and also I think that the worst thing that's happened to this country, it's always debatable to say something like that, but for Amy, that's been her biggest fear, and then the kind of knife in the end when she mentions female presidents, that it's been her biggest fear that that there would be no more, and it's been her biggest fear that she'd be at the helm of a failed presidency, and so I think that's her way of saying I won't be a part of that. Like she's getting rid of it. It's expunging.
Yeah,
I've had to think about this psychologically, obviously. I don't know if anybody else is as interested, but
it's the greatest scene in the
in the history of television.
But I mean, the food in the bucket and maybe slavery. That's kind of like the classic Veep, put down,
Yeah.
But then when she adds that, I mean, it takes on kind of a bigger thing when she says the fact that you were a woman president and means.
There will be no more.
There will be no more. We tried one and it sucked. I mean, that took it to just like another level.
Yeah. I think that was her. She had to drop the mic, she was leaving. And I think, she's just like, I gotta, I like I said, as campaign manager, that was her nightmare, for there to be no more women presidents because of her, and so, and also in a scene like that, in a standoff like that, you really want to hurt the other person, the way that you're hurting. So, because really when it comes down to it, even though it's professional, even though it's a president and a campaign manager, it's still a relationship, and it gets terribly personal in that scene. So, so it does just come down to kind of hurting her as much as she can in that little spot before she retreats and leaves. So.
I would just say to tease the season finale. Probably most people are going to end up watching this after it's aired anyway.
Possibly,
to tease it, I mean, it kind of comes around beautifully in the season finale. I think that relationship. It's a real for Veep. It's a really emotional,
tender
moment.
Even. Yeah, I think so. I think it's, I think that our writers were really brave this season to give not just Amy and Selena, but also Gary and Selena had a huge emotional scene. And, you know, I think that some other comedies would be afraid to kind of let that be and let that be something other than just hysterical, you know, and I think that also we are, and none of our scenes suffer for it. You know, I think that it only strengthens the comedy in the end, you know, and to make us rounded, to make us real people who really feel things and can be tender in a very high stakes situation.
You mentioned Gary. I mean, that scene, the Amy meltdown scene. Thank God, I think for you that Tony Hale was behind you. Because I don't know how you could have possibly.
He wasn't.
Was he?
No, he's behind Selena. I was looking. Yeah, I could see him the whole time.
His reactions.
Yeah. But when you're so in that, like, anything that they're giving you is just more fodder for your own reactions. So,
but Gary, I mean, he's just like, you know how Gary is. I mean, he's just
suffering.
Like, he's
suffering.
This is just wounding him deeply.
Oh, deeply. But
he's so good at
and
I makes those faces that he's like the little lamb, and
he's brilliant. And he feels it, you know. And I didn't get to laugh at all of the reactions though until I was an audience member. You know, in the scene, they're not funny. You know, I mean, it's you know, it's pretty.
Yeah,
it's kind of heightened and tragic, and but yeah, I rewatched that scene and I'm like, oh my God, like everybody, Matt, who plays Mike, his reactions, and Gary Cole, who plays Kent, like, I mean, the reactions are pretty, well, I mean, it's just a testament to everybody being present and showing up on the day and paying attention and letting it affect them, which is the name of the game for an actor. So I'm so happy that we all were in it.
Now we were just talking earlier about you're going to watch the season finale. Tonight. Did you say tonight? Okay.
Yeah.
Because watching these episodes for you is kind of a revelation, because you guys shoot so much footage.
Exactly. Yeah, we never know what the final cake is going to taste like. You know, it's we all put together tons of footage, and we shoot a lot, and usually, I mean, sometimes it's even double like the length, and then our brilliant editors and Armando Iannucci and our directors and our showrunners all somehow tease out exactly what's necessary for the story, and it's usually pretty magic. Yeah.
You've never like been disappointed? Like, I remember there was just the one.
You know, I learned very early on. I learned during In the Loop, which is the film that I did with Arm and everybody. I learned not to be precious about anything that you film that we may have lost, because really, it's impossible to keep it all. You knew that going in. Like, you know, when we filmed In the Loop, it was 242 pages, the script. So I knew half of what we were doing
wasn't going to be a 4 hour movie.
And wasn't going to make it in. So it gives you this type of freedom to really just play, because you trust that they will find what they want, and your job isn't to write the story. Your job is to communicate it, and so it's always a very happy result. So I've learned to trust it completely.
We have some questions from readers. I was looking down here. I remember this. Veep's moving to California, right?
Yeah.
Which is not really good news for you, though, is it?
But I'm the only one. I mean, I'll be the one.
You live in New York.
I live in New York. Yeah, no, you're right. Everybody else lives here in LA, and we've all deployed for 4 seasons, and so now the fact that like a good 95% won't have to deploy and they get to stay with their families is pretty great. So I think we'll have very happy people.
Yeah.
And I'll just get a lot of mileage.
Right. And I guess the real big change, though, is that Armando Iannucci is leaving the show.
Yeah.
And you guys have a new showrunner.
We have a new showrunner. His name's Dave Mandel, and he's terribly bright, and I'm very excited.
Really Louis Dreyfus approved, so that's
which that's a good stamp. you know, yeah, HBO and Julia stamp is okay by me, and
it eases any fears you would have.
Yeah, yeah, and then I had coffee with him, and so then I had my own stamp of approval. So that, yeah, I like that one too. I like my own stamp too.
That's a big change though, because that voice, Armando's voice, so strong. Yeah, it's exciting. I think probably a 5th season, you kind of maybe a change is a good thing.
I think, you know, I think that that fresh eyes on a creative process is rarely a bad thing. I think that we can benefit from it, and I think that he's got some really good ideas. So I'm really excited to see how it goes, because we're not in any way going to be putting on somebody else's coat. You know, it's like we're moving forward. We're not going to try to do, you know, a ton of what we've done before, because it's been done, and it's an absolutely delicious result. So you know, so we may as well just continue creating, as opposed to trying to, you know, muscle anything from the past, I think.
And the season ends on kind of a crazy cliffhanger,
as always, as we always do, right?
So there's, you know, there's a good jumping off point for the next
Absolutely.
season.
No, it's, we're set up pretty, we're set up with I think many avenues that we can explore.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And the writers obviously take care of you. You know, Tim Simons was in last week, and he was saying how, you know, you got this great meltdown moment. He wasn't saying this, but I am now. But he got the sexual harassment from Patton Oswalt. So you get to blow your top, and he
gets to stuff it down. I thought that it was again such a fine line, you know, for Jonah, for the Jonah character, because I had to remind myself personally, like, oh no, but he's a despicable person.
Right.
And then that's the beauty of our show, I think, is that even though it's a comedy and even though it's hilarious, it still is exploring human condition, which is, you know, what I always got into this business for. And so, you know, it makes you ask those questions of like, well, am I happy about this horrible thing happening to a despicable person, or is it still just bad that a bad thing happens to anybody? You know, that's a very fair question, and in the middle of it, you can laugh at it because it's absurd and satirical, and but you know, isn't out of the realm of possibility, which is really sad. And we're not afraid to have like sad funny and you know, anger funny, and you know, we recognize that you can have all of that at once. So that's a really, I don't know, I feel great to be involved in like a sophisticated satire and version of comedy like that. It's a treat. So Jonah's a perfect example of that.
Did you ever wonder when Amy, you know, resigned as campaign manager, did you ever wonder, like, for a minute, is there going to be an Amy? We get a brief Amy vacation episode, or a brief, like, okay, and she's in the spa with her sister, right?
Yeah.
Cucumbers, the whole thing.
Giving it a go.
And it lasts for what?
I think we said 7 minutes.
Yeah.
God bless her. She's got a lot of walls to break down for Amy. But this is the beginning of it for her, you know.
You think?
She's got to start somewhere. I think so. Oh, definitely. To leave a situation that you've been in for, I think we figured it was like 12 or 13 years she's been with Selena. You know, to just put it behind you like that, it's huge. I mean, even though she didn't plan it, and even though she would never admit that she needed to break down walls, that was it happening without her even knowing it. So growth.
But it's not going to change like her sort of driven.
Oh, I don't think so. I think in essence she's
incapable of being able to relax, kind of thing.
Exactly. No, I think what she learned in trying to relax was just how driven
stressful
she is. Well, and how driven she is by anger and what the Brits said was bile. You know, which in itself is self-discovery. She was like, oh, this, you know, I don't like this thing, I like this thing. And so slowly but surely she starts to discover what works for her in life. And I think before this, she just never even asked those questions of herself. She just kind of like just wanted to be on the track and stay on the track, and and so now that she's off the track, off the rails, really, she gets to find those things out about herself.
Yeah.
But she, essentially she's Amy Brookheimer. She's not gonna, she's not someone else.
Right. Too late to change now, probably. Maybe small growth. We're all trying.
We all try. Yeah. But hey, maybe it'll be good for her.
It's probably,
it can't go well.
It can't go well.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. We were talking about the scene, the meltdown scene in Tony Hale and stuff. Jocelyn's asking, are there times during the shoot when the cast has to stop and wait for laughter where you break?
Oh, totally. There are definitely, we all break up. Julia and Tony, they make each other. Yeah. It's they have this synergy, that sometimes, they just can't control, and they don't know, and they're like, oh, don't look at me, like, they're like, you as a witness know when it's happening. You're like, oh, there it is. Oh crap, they're gonna go, and then they go. And but it's a joy when that happens, because we get to laugh at work. How many people get to say that? So
is there someone who can push your button?
Matt is usually the one for me. Yeah, almost always. There's just something, I just adore the character Mike. I think he's such a dear, earnest character, and he'll just say stuff that I have a haircut in that show that's very swingy, so my whole thing is I can just kind of like throw it in front of my face if I have to, like. Right. That's my little trick.
So if we see that in a Veep scene, we know what's going on.
Maybe I'm just turning my head. But yeah, it could be that I'm corpsing as well. Yeah.
Well, Matt with the Cheetos mustache, he wouldn't really even have to say anything, right?
Oh my God! And well, that duck episode when it was so funny when they're all making fun of him, and you just see him trying all the time, and that's what it's the earnestness of Mike that is, and he's not wrong half the time. When he complains about his job or any of that, you understand. You're like, I get it, but unfortunately he's in a world that doesn't allow him to express himself so openly. And yet he does.
And he does, and behind the scenes some this year too, and he gets called on it. That's the kind of it's a very dark season, and you see these people who have been with Selena for years and years, and now that she's in the White House, the dynamic seems to have changed a little bit, and not in a good way. Yeah,
it's almost like it's the it begins positively in the beginning of the season, where Dan and Mike are like, oh my gosh, she just said hi to me, and they've been with her for years, but there's that. It's a presidential cachet. Like, she has this power that's undeniable power now. And I think even though she was always the boss, and our staff always served her ambitions and served her role in government, even as a senator before Veep starts, and as a vice president, I think that there was probably always a sense of like, well, who's really running the ship here? And once she's president, it's like, well, she does have the ultimate say, and the buck really does stop there. And so yeah, I think the staff all lose something in that. It's a little sad, but hey, such is life. Such is life, exactly. Such is life. Such is power.
Right.
And not everybody can have all the power.
Right.
So
we'll see what season 5 will bring. Who will have the power? We don't know.
Don't know.
Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. It's always fun to talk.
Yeah. For more of these conversations, please go to latimes.com, click on television, you'll find a bunch. Thanks.